Very seldom do we think about the significance of Christianity and the cross within that religion. The reality is that the cross is far more symbolic than any illustration that Jesus Christ has ever been, because the world identifies with icons. It is part of innate human nature to be able to connect with imagery. Myself, having deployed around the world, I found that the Golden Arches were something I personally connected to. McDonald's was such a recognizable stamp around the world that even immediately I felt home. Much like the same way, this image of Che Guevara has resonated around the world. Many people may not even know his name, but his image of the guerrillero heroico lives far beyond anything that we could ever do. He has become the unofficial icon for those who fight against the oppression. And this is relevant, especially in today's time, because current events, many leaders have raised arms in support of those who are oppressed and against the status quo of current social norms. Many leaders, even today, label themselves democratic socialists, socialism having been a dirty word for so long. They finally fight for this ideal, as is the case with Representative Ocasio-Cortez, who recently made history by becoming the youngest representative in history. It is his image and his ideology that was able to inspire so many voices and finally created the outcry for those voices that were silenced by oppression for so long. Personally, I've been inculcated with a certain admiration for this man throughout my whole life. I am from Bolivia, and Bolivia, having been the last place that saw him live, his mythology is much larger than anywhere else in the world. Well, maybe Cuba would be the other place. I've grown up with stories, and I've learned so much about what his convictions led him to be. Without further ado, this is a brief history on Che Guevara, the man behind this stern look, the man that inspired so many movements and so many voices to finally speak out. Interestingly enough, his life had three phases. It was broken up in his early beginnings, from being born into a middle class in Argentina, through finally a journey of self-discovery, going through a series of trips on a motorcycle through South America, and then ending in the blindest phase of him becoming the revolutionary that we know him as. Che Guevara, also known as Ernesto Guevara de la Serna, was born on May 14, 1928. Interestingly enough, 2 years later, he was diagnosed with asthma, which put a lot of damper into his early childhood. He was a very hyperactive and very mischievous child, and he excelled at athletics, but he was always limited. This actually ended up helping him in the later part of the Cuban Revolution, as he had become accustomed to fighting through the asthmatic symptoms. As stated in Che Guevara by Jennifer Peterson, he had no political tendencies as he grew up. His family never really inculcated anything differently. The only thing that really resonated was the fact that his family had been partial to the Spanish Republicans through the Spanish Civil War. This is very evident in the Greg Luther analysis of the motorcycle diaries that were written by Che Guevara. He states that it is because of the perception that he grew up with of the Spanish Civil War that he was able to take so much from his trip through South America. Later on, once growing up, he decided to become a doctor. But through his studies, he took many breaks to explore and get to travel through Argentina and get to know the country. Eventually, him and his friend Alberto Granado went through a series of trips, the main one being through South America. And it started in Argentina, went through Chile, Peru, Colombia, and Venezuela. In Peru, they were able to go into leprosarium, where their whole purpose was to study leprosy, since he was trying to become a doctor. The thing that resonated so much about this trip is that he firsthand saw the poverty that plagued the South American people, the lack of medicine, and all the social injustices that even exists throughout today. The way the hierarchy exists and racial inequalities that still exist against the indigenous population of South America. Many years later, after having received his doctorate in medicine, he was able to make his way into Mexico. There, he connected with Fidel Castro and became a major player in the Cuban Revolution. Once he got there, he suffered through long months in the jungle. He had months where his asthma would flare up almost daily, but because of his superior intellect and mental preparation, he was often tasked to build provisional hospitals and to educate the working population, especially the farmers who were illiterate. And this helped promote the revolution and grow the number of people who were willing to fight for Fidel Castro. Once they'd reached power, he was named Minister of Industry and Economy, and he was a prominent leader within the Socialist Party in Cuba. He even delivered a speech at the UN in 1964. And in his speech, he himself states, "We want to build socialism. We have declared that we are supporters of those who strive for peace. We have declared ourselves to be within a group of non-aligned countries, although we are Marxist-Leninists because the non-aligned countries like ourselves fight imperialism. We want peace." His main message in this is that he did not align himself with the Soviet bloc of socialism or communism, as it was labeled back then. He had a very pure sense of what moral socialism could be. One other famous quote that he said was that the most important quality for a revolutionary is love. Love for justice, love for freedom, love for the fellow man. And it is because of this love that he had for fellow man that he could not be sitting still in Cuban politics. He left and he tried to pursue his revolutionary ideals elsewhere. He went to the Congo, and there he tried to unify different tribes into setting up a revolution much like the Cuban one, and ultimately failing. He went back to Cuba, recuperated, and attempted it again in Bolivia. Unfortunately there, a CIA-led operation led to his death and capture. He was captured on October 9th, 1967, and interestingly enough, in killing him, the CIA was able to cement his image as a martyr for those who oppose the status quo, creating the mythical persona that is Che Guevara. Though today, many may not know his name, they're definitely going to recognize his face in cups, flags, shirts, and every kind of memorabilia. This is what makes his story so important for people to know. This is a man with multiple stages that proves that nurture is more important than nature. He's a testament to what the value of conviction and what a person can achieve. And though some may die, their life and actions will forever echo in eternity. Thank you.